Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and I would like to do a strike update today. So, I've been trying to do these videos about the writer strike and now the actor strike, pretty much when there is some sort of information, some sort of movement in the strike to keep you up to date on what is going on. Now, the last video I made about the Writers Guild strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike, the Actors Guild, or union, sorry, the strikes were in the middle of July, and the Actors Union had just joined the Writers Union on strike. So we have been, or the writers have been, sorry, I'm not part of either one, sorry, have been on strike for over 90 days now, and the actors are just starting, so they're like less than 20 days in. And on Tuesday, August 1st, the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, AMPTP, came to WGA West and said, we want to talk about terms for negotiation. And so they set a date for Friday. It is now Saturday. So let's talk about what's been happening since July 13th to now August 5th, I think it is. And then I really don't think anything's gonna exciting is going to happen on Monday, but if something exciting happens on Monday, well, that's on me for shooting on a Saturday. So what's happened since July 13th, I believe was my last video, and I have a whole bunch of tabs up here to talk about. So first thing that kind of happened was we had this stuff happening at NBC Universal outside of there in Los Angeles. They came through and they trimmed the ficus trees outside of the studio in July. Most arborists say you trim ficus trees in fall, winter when they're dormant. Anyways, so they offered this flimsy excuse. They had actually cut down the trees quite a bit, and they've even topped them. And just trees that were near their property, a couple 300 feet down the road, weren't cut. They weren't trimmed. Only the ones that were over the sidewalks where the strikers were marching outside of the gate were trimmed. And of course, NBC Universal put out a statement, was we were just doing this because of the wind season coming up, and we didn't want tree branches falling down, and we didn't mean to inconvenience the strikes in any way. And then they put up little tents over the sidewalk to as a gesture, I guess. And nobody was believing this, of course. And they were also at the same time having trouble at another gate because NBC Universal had started a sidewalk project and were forcing the strikers to walk out on the road, and 2 people were hit by cars. And the WGA and SAG-AFTRA were saying that this is a kind of retaliation thing against the strike. And they had went to the city and they need to put up some sort of ramp, they need to put up rails so we can continue to strike even if they are going to be putting in a sidewalk, which, what a weird time to be putting in a sidewalk when people are on strike, So, what happened there was, so the city of Los Angeles is actually the ones that own the ficus trees. And there's 700,000 of them in Los Angeles that are owned by the city, and only 14 people in the arborist division of the city there. And they went and they said, we didn't issue you guys a permit. We haven't issued you a permit for cutting in 3 years. And NBC Universal was oh, we do this every year at this time, blah, blah, blah. And everybody got excited because tree law, tree law is can be very, very expensive and very, very, intricate. So all that happened was NBC Universal was fined $250 for trimming the trees without a permit, and everybody had to go on their way. And, you know, if it could be proved, maybe bird law could have gotten involved because the hummingbirds make nests in ficus trees, and hummingbirds are a protected species in California. But probably nobody's going to take it quite that far, which is unfortunate. And everybody's like, oh, just $250. That's not fair. And the guy was like, the city guy was like, yeah, we have some pretty outdated fines and stuff that should be looked into. This is unfortunate that this is all I could do. If I could do more, I would. Because, I mean, it should be somebody who would be like coming and going, we have not issued you any permits to cut these trees, and you cut them 3 years ago, and, you know. So the arborists say that the trees will probably survive. They survived the last time they did this, but it's not good for the trees. Let's just put it that way. It's not really good for the trees. It's not good for the city because the city's in the middle of a heat wave, and trees help keep cities cool. And it's not good for the striking writers because the trees were giving them shade. You know, and the striking actresses, the trees were giving them shade. So this does highlight the problem with today's multi-million, billion-dollar companies is that these type of fines that we have were established, you know, back when $250 was a lot of money. And now these businesses, these huge corporations, can take these fines and just write them off as costs of doing business, instead of these fines being like a percentage of whatever profit or revenue or of the company. They're just a set fee. And it's one of those things where it needs to be looked into, but everybody's got so much on their plate that fines for the trees is one of those things that we just don't think about until something happens. As for the sidewalk, the NBC Universal put up a rail. They finished up their little sidewalk project, and according to Deadline Hollywood, the picket out sign of Universal on August 4th had thousands of people at it. So the sidewalk is back, the rail line is back. It looked like they have a rail, or they have some, actually do have some, they have some cones, like I'm seeing some orange cones there. So people can be picketing outside of NBC Universal at that gate now. So, yay! The picket continues, and thousands of people showed up on Thursday. So, or what is today? Today is the 5th, so thousands of people showed up on Friday now that it's all cleaned up. Okay, what else happened? Between July 13th and July 30th, UPS, the Teamsters union there, was threatening to go on strike to Teamsters, to the UPS Corporation. And the Teamsters sat down with the UPS trucks, UPS Corporation, and they actually negotiated a new contract and averted the strike. So they want 48% increase in wages for the part-time workers for the next 5 years, AC and fans and delivery vans, ends to forced overtime on days off, creation of 7,500 full-time positions, and the filling of 22,500 open positions, and immediate pay increases. So over the next 5 years, UPS workers will start being paid at the end of that $42 an hour, and you know they have to have CDL licenses, and they have to, you know, get into UPS. I guess UPS is really, really picky about their drivers. So this was a really big win for labor. It was also a really big win for the United States economy because the UPS workers, UPS is one of the largest, if not the largest, package deliverer in the United States of America. The United States Postal Service and FedEx just don't have the kind of infrastructure UPS does now. You can thank your United States government for the United States Postal Service no longer being as good as it was. Thanks. So this is a really big win for labor. This is a really big win for all workers because, you know, if you're upset that in 5 years, UPS workers will be making $42 an hour, and you're like, I'm so at such and such, and I don't make that much, then if you're part of a union, get together with the union and talk about when your contract comes up, and, you know, should you be negotiating for higher pay in your contract? Yes. If you're not part of a union, maybe you need to form a union, join a union, who knows. But so this is a great big win for labor. It will mean that, you know, if FedEx or USPS, whoever wants to get drivers or better drivers than, you know, like UPS has, they're going to have to increase their wages. They're going to have to increase, you know, their health insurance coverage, and they'll have to give them things like AC in the van. Because why would you work for a company that doesn't have AC in the van if you can work for a company that does have AC in the van? Okay. So that was a really great big win for labor there. Now, there's some other information coming out, too. For instance, Warner Brothers Discovery bragged about their Q2 earnings, where they said the strike saved them $100 million. Okay, sure. It saved you $100 million. That's like finding a nickel on the street. Good job. And I don't think a lot of people know this, but in the streaming world, particularly for actors and some for writers, I believe, that, but mostly it's for the actors and for the people who are on the set, that studios, if it's particularly for streaming, do not have to pay the actors and everything their full minimum wages and residuals for the first 3 seasons of a show. Okay? So they don't have to pay that. And then at season 4, that's when they first start having to pay everybody 100%, and they have to start paying out the residuals for the show, you know, right off the bat. And I didn't know this. I don't remember how I knew this. It came up, I think I learned this a couple of years ago. It just came up randomly. But this is why a lot of your shows are discontinued after season 2 or 3. And what Disney Plus apparently has been doing, and because I don't have Disney Plus and I've just not been paying attention, is they're rebranding or renaming the 4 seasons of most of their shows that they're putting up on streaming, so they don't have to pay these residuals. So, you know, Hannah Montana became Hannah Montana Forever, or Zack and Cody became Sweet Life on Deck, or Lab Rats Bionic Island, or Jesse getting a spin-off with Bunked, you know, things like that. I guess that's what's going on. And there's some speculation now that Henry Cavill actually left The Witcher because they didn't want to pay him the full money. You know, some people think, you know, we could go the next step and say they wanted to scan him for AI and use his image forever, you know, type of thing. But so this is becoming a more commonly known thing, and there are just a whole bunch of ways studios are just trying to get around it that are sneaky to save quote-unquote money, you know, save themselves $100 million. Come on. And it's entirely crazy. Someone took, I can't remember their name, It's probably too far back for me to look now. But they went through and they made like this pie charts of what basically the Teamsters asked for, what the writers asked for, what the actors asked for, and how much of it is a slice of a pie it is versus the total overall profits of all the studios. And the slices of pie were so thin versus the overall studios that you couldn't even see them on the Excel little pie chart that Excel had made for them. And so basically the studios are hung up I think the largest percentage was 0.091% of the profits. Or 0.01% of the profits. So we're coming to this point, this kind of inflection point in these negotiations with the Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA, where the studios either have to come out and they have to pay up the 0.01% or 0.09%. It's not even a full percent here. The pennies that the WGA and SAG are asking, or admit that there is actually no money at all in streaming, and that, you know, this whole we're trying to gain subscribers and watching the stock prices go up has just kind of been a lie. Now, their stock prices have dipped. All the studios have, except for Warner Brothers for some reason. All the stock prices have dipped, and they have not quite recovered to where they were before they dipped. Just always fun. Another thing was to be aware of is Amazon Entertainment business. This is their the entertainment business would be their movie arm, has multiple generative AI initiatives underway. So even Amazon, so we've had Google doing this, now we have Amazon doing it, Disney's doing it. Netflix was looking for AI people with salary of $900,000 a year. All these studios are looking into AI. And there are 4 authors currently suing ChatGPT for different reasons. Or there's two suits and 4 authors attached to them. And about, you know, how ChatGPT is getting its information to learn off of. And so we have this problem, is that these tech people are going towards AI, and we just don't have any sort of rules and laws in place. And that's exactly why they're going towards AI, because they feel until there are rules and laws in place, they can exploit it as much as they want. So once again, our laws are not keeping up with the technology industry here currently. And so this is a real problem. I've heard rumors that maybe traditional authors should be forming a union too because of AI, and it's traditional authors suing the ChatGPT creators there. And the other thing is all this AI stuff. You know, everybody's been like trying to get onto this AI stuff, and we have a problem that the AI servers, that the computers that are needed to run this ChatGPT program in particular, run so hot that they need a nuclear reactor's worth of fresh water, and I think it's in California, to keep cool. This is just, it's like blockchain and everything else. This is just horrible for our environment. So we'll see where it's going, but I'm not, you know, hopeful unless they can find some way. And we're hitting the boundary of physics for our circuit boards and stuff like that. We're hitting that circuit with that physics boundary. Unless they find some way to change the technology, I don't even know if it's going to be electronically and ecologically feasible without, you know, them being billionaires basically to toss money at it. So there's that. And then on August 4th, while the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers in the WGA West were having their closed-door meeting about what was going to happen with the negotiations next, the Hollywood Reporter has put out an article about how food insecurity has spiked amid the strike, how it's gone up, I believe, at least 9%. And, they're processing 50 applications a day. So if you have the ability to donate to any of these entertainment community funds, to the writer's grocery thing, to the SAG Entertainment Fund type of thing, if you have the ability to do that, please do. Please remember that 87% of the actors are working actors. They do not make the $26,000 minimum to get their health insurance. Same goes for writers. Most of the writers are not making a lot of money. They're having a hard time keeping food on the table and a roof over their heads. And the only way for them to be able to get a better life is to strike, because this is the power that they've got. Okay? The studios hold a massive amount of power, and a strike and withholding their labor is the only way that they can push up against the studios, So groceries for writers, and the Hollywood, the Community Entertainment Fund, and the local IT. If you're out there in Los Angeles and you see like a food drive or something for them, please donate. And there's a Green Envelope Grocery Aid Mutual Aid Fund as well. So if you can find those, people are having a hard time getting food. This is, among other things. But this is a really good way to help the strike so that they can continue. And to help more than just the writers and the actors, but you can help the Teamsters, and you can help help everybody who is currently out of work because the studios will not pay their writers and actors. How about that? Won't treat with them fairly. So before they went into try to open negotiations, please notice I said try, the WGA put out a statement, and the statement was about basically how the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers has used the same tactics that they used in every other strike previously. And they are trying to divide and conquer labor by refusing to negotiate, and then first trying to negotiate with the Directors Guild and then the Screen Actors Guild, and then to force writers to make a deal. So they have done this over and over and over, and usually they call, they're saying they call us back in, then they refuse to negotiate fairly, then they try to say that it's on us because we're being unreasonable, and, that, it is our fault when, they refuse to negotiate, they refuse to pay us fairly, and address the issues in our current, industry concern. And the AMPTP boss went, they would say, oh, this is unfortunate rhetoric type of thing, this strike has hurt thousands of people, and we take that very seriously. Our playbook is getting people back to work. And so on Friday, they made a couple hours long meeting, and WGA, I believe David Slack, actually David Slack, I believe, is the Slack to the Future on X, is the one who also made the pie charts. But, so David Slack came out and he gave a rundown on X of what had happened at the meeting, and basically what to sum it up is they were the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers was demanded to have a blackout. They didn't want anything going on that was going on in the meeting to be said outside the meeting. And then when they got in the meeting, they were like, there's two things in here we can't do, and then you know, if you give up those important things, we'll negotiate on other things. They're trying to get them to negotiate with themselves, basically, and then they also, so the WGA was like, the two things that we can't, you know, give up is writer room minimums and minimum length of employment. Like, we have to have so many writers in the writer's room at all times, and we have to have guaranteed minimum employments now. And then they also said, and we would like to add a clause into our contract, that a non-retaliation clause about us not crossing picket lines. So if our writers don't cross, you know, individually feel that they can't cross a SAG line or well, not a DGA, or a Teamsters line, they won't be fired or retaliated against to do so, if they do so. That's not currently in the WGA contract, and even though that the Teamsters have it, the Directors Guild has it, the SAG has it, and they feel, the Writers Guild feels like we should have that option not to cross, you know, the picket lines in solidarity with our fellow unions, and, you know, not be punished for it. And the Alliance of Motion Picture Television Producers went, no, can't do that, can't do that. And then they immediately turned around and started leaking information to places like Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, other industry news outlets. They're owned by the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers member companies, Penske Media. And this is a conflict of interest that is never stated in their coverage. If you're watching a lot of news sources about the strikes, like if you watch CNN or MSNBC, sometimes, not always, but sometimes the news corporations will come out and say which studio they're owned by, and a lot of them are like, we're contractually obligated to say this, but sometimes I think it's the people sitting at the desk going, I feel I better say this so people understand that, you know, why we have this slant to our reporting about the strikes. And I will give MSNBC some credit and CNN some credit. They've had very vocal people on about both strikes. They've had on Fran Drescher and they've had on Adam Conover to talk about the strikes. And, you know, they have been open about who they're owned by, but not everybody is being open about what studio they're owned by, because a lot of these big communication companies, not only do they have printing arms, like, you know, one owns Simon & Schuster, the publishing company, but they also own a lot of the magazines and newspapers and things like, and television outlets. And they owe, on top of having the entertainment arm of dramatic television, they have reality television, they have soap operas, they have movies. So that is, so that's out there. And and so the WGA, you know, after Deadline and Variety and everything were going, the writers are being unreasonable, as, you know, like, exactly what the WGA said they were going to do. The WGA felt they had to come out and make a statement, which is what David Slack did. And then they put out a statement on the WGA contract 2023.org page. It was on their announcement page. And they were going to send an email, but however, they, had all these, like, would you comment on this? Would you comment on this? About the rumors about the meeting, and they said, we got to tell you what was said. And, the fact that, the DGA had made a deal, and that's what the framework of that deal is what the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers want the WGA and the SAG to fall into line. But they're not, they were willing to increase their offers on TV minimums, and they're willing to talk about artificial intelligence, but they're not willing to engage on preservations of writing rooms or success-based residuals. And they just weren't willing to address screenwriter issues and, a lot of other things on the list that they had. And, of course, the WGA is holding their ground. This is, this is normal. It is normal for the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers to come back about in 90 days and say, we're willing to negotiate, and turn around and say, the writers are being unreasonable, they're not willing to bend, they're not willing to compromise, when they're saying that we're not going to talk about these things. And so the writers' strike will go on for sometimes another 30 days, another 60 days. And remember, this strike from the beginning was talked about going on until September or October. And now that SAG has joined the strike, SAG is saying that they have been getting donations to their fund from a lot of high-profile celebrities. Have been making $1 million donations. They're A-list actors. Meryl Streep, Dwayne Johnson, I think Matt Damon did it. There was a whole list. And they're saying, well, hey, we're funded to strike for the next 6 months. So this could, drag on, could go on. And the Writers Guild is, we're not going to wait for the SAG Guild to get a contract, but we want to be sure that if SAG is still striking, then, and we feel like we want to stay in solidarity with them because they've stood in solidarity with us, fines do not cross picket lines. Fran Drescher has been really supportive of the WGA strike and encouraging her members to be supportive of the WGA strike. And they're like, so we want to be able to, strike with, have that solidarity option in our contract. And, and basically all the AMPTP person would say is, people just want to get back to work. We just want to get back to work. And it's just like, yeah, but you can't get back to work until you negotiate fair contracts. So, the WGA has said that, they're not going to leave anyone behind, and they want to resume negotiations, but the negotiations have to be done in good faith and to make a fair deal to all writers. Now, a poll conducted by Ledger, Ledger, released on Wednesday, shows that the studios only have 7% support of all the respondents. 93% of the respondents of that poll supported the writers and the actors. That is amazing. There was this huge overwhelming of the people who voted for the strike in the guilds themselves. There was a huge, over 95, somewhere between 95 and 98% majority voted to strike. And now it's showing that this poll is showing that in the people that responded in the group, I don't know how big the poll was, only 7% of people support the studios, which says that the people that are looking into the strikes or some people who are not even looking into the strikes, I suppose, and know what the issue are, and know, you know, what the writers and actors are asking for. It's not unreasonable, and that, you know, and maybe there's this huge eat the rich capitalistic thing. I don't know. But some of the stuff that these corporate CEOs are saying, you know, as the strikes are going on, and what they're doing as the strikes are going on, is just not resonating with the working person. So, that's kind of what's been going on. I didn't mean to take 35 minutes to do this, but here we are. And so, you know, the strike continues in its predictable, historical precedented way, where the studios, they don't want to give up any money. They don't want to pay people. And now they're thinking that artificial intelligence can take people's places, even though it's really, really expensive to build, maintain, program, whatever, and it has to be dependent. It's still currently dependent. Artificial intelligence is currently dependent upon human input. They can't learn off of other artificial intelligence stuff, because it just starts collapsing. You know, the whole thing. It's not like it learns and it keeps the learning. It learns, and then it just, you teach it off other AI stuff, and it just collapses. You have to have human input into this artificial intelligence, this language learning models, that it's not artificial intelligence, for it to even work. So we'll see how long this continues to go on. So here is kind of my plan for the upcoming weeks. On Thursday, there will be a branding video about the charming branding of Paleo Pines, a dino life sim family or farming thing, and it's really, really cute, and I wish you could play it, so I hope you show up for that. And then the next 5 weeks, on Tuesdays, will be me discussing why it is easy to blame the writers for everything bad coming out of Hollywood. And that won't be the titles, but but that's basically what I'll be talking about. Like, I have been watching the reactions of the 7% who don't support the strike, and the writing is bad. So so we shouldn't support the strike. So I want to talk about like 4 different arguments I've seen, and the last one takes 2 videos. So so that will be basically the next month and a half, and I don't know if how long the strike is going on. But I recorded those all on August 4th on the Friday, so yay, I guess. Yay, I guess. Having the next whole month done. Take care of yourselves, my lovelies. Stay safe. If you're out on the picket line, stay hydrated. Drink your Gatorade. Get your, electrolytes in there. Wear your sunscreen, your hat. I personally have an umbrella, but, do stay safe out there, please, and take care of yourselves out there. Bless, and I will see you in the next video.